All right, welcome back in here, Inbound Sports Podcast. I'm Brooks Talley. I'm here with my cousin, best friend Devin Dowdy. First off, we'd like to wish everyone a happy New Year and a happy 2021. Many blessings coming your way, and thank you for a great 2020. Obviously, not the best year for everybody, but we're all looking forward to a fresh new start and hoping everything can get better. Dev, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How are you? Just to hope everyone had a good Christmas. Obviously, a good end to 2020. We're kicking off 2021. Sorry for the delay and break. Decided to take a little break from the holidays, take a step away, obviously enjoy our time away from school. So we're going to get into NFL, obviously, as we all know. Big weekend coming up, super wild card. So, Brooks, I guess I'm going to focus on the two number one seeds right now in Kansas City and Green Bay. Which team, in your opinion, has the better home field advantage and why?
Yeah, so this one was pretty simple for me, honestly, and right away, it's Green Bay. Why, you might ask? Simply just because of the frozen tundra. The Packers players they've pretty much adapted to playing in that environment. Snowy, cold, and like if anybody's played football, it's a little harder to get things moving and going when you're playing in the snow and the cold. So that they kind of have that advantage because they're used to getting going early. Where teams like we saw with Tennessee, they had a little bit of trouble getting going early. It felt like they kind of picked things up later, but then it was just too late because the Packers already put like 25 on you. So I think that would be huge for Green Bay. I remember I watched like an interview with Aaron Rodgers, and he was saying how I think in his 12, 13-year career with Green Bay or whatever it was, he's never had the playoffs go through Green Bay, so that'll be huge for him. And obviously, if Aaron Rodgers says that, that means a lot. And like if you think about other NFC teams that they're going to have to play against, like New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles Rams, maybe even Seahawks, they don't really got to deal with that much. Like especially New Orleans, they play in a dome. And so, that could really be game changer for them, especially it just makes another thing that opposing teams got to come in and really like adjust for and practice for. It's just an extra thing you got to focus in and practice is getting ready for that cold weather, a little bit of pop extra in your pads with that snow. So definitely to me, it's Green Bay.
Yeah, obviously, we want to take away the bias as much as possible, but it is definitely Green Bay. When you look at the two teams, the Green Bay needed this way more than Kansas City needed it. They travel a lot better. I think Packers showed this year they can travel a little bit better, but obviously two of their three losses were on the road, and two losses that hurt quite a bit. So, the Tennessee game, like Brooks said, proved a lot, showed that the frozen tundra is huge. Obviously, this team is very comfortable at Lambeau. I think, obviously, Lambeau and Arrowhead are your two toughest places to play, but come January when the weather comes to, worse terms, obviously with the snow, I think there's already close to a foot of snow in Green Bay right now, so hopefully it piles up even more, and I think the Packers obviously have a better advantage than the Chiefs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. So I'll hop into our next NFL topic. Obviously, tough week for Dwayne Haskins. He was first overall pick by the Washington Redskins last year, and now he is jobless in the NFL. So is there any hope for Dwayne Haskins in having a possible future in the NFL, Dev?
Well, this is tough. I mean, obviously one of the most prolific talents we've seen out of Ohio State at the quarterback position in a number of years. He slipped in the draft, obviously had a pretty big ego, a chip on his shoulder. But I think for a while right now he's done. I think he proved to GMs that he's not willing to work for his spot. I think he wasn't willing to put in the time and effort that a job that in the NFL takes, and obviously a lot of us can speculate as to what it does take to get it starting quarterback position in the NFL. But this is kind of a completely different scenario, but it's like the Johnny Manziel. I think he's just not going to get that opportunity again. I think if he wants, he's going to have to work his ass off. He's going to have to really show people that he wants to work, that he's willing to, do film. That's a huge thing that I think people don't talk about is film sessions are huge. Aaron Rodgers does it every day. I assume, Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, they're all on that grind too. So I think it's tough. I feel for the guy, but I also can't have too much sympathy when a man isn't willing to put in the work, when you work your entire life to get to that spot, and then you just feel like, oh, I get paid. This is just meant to be, and I hope he does well for himself and in his future endeavors. But I think for a while he's done in the NFL.
Yeah, I really hate to think that, but I'd like to think he's still got some future in the NFL. He's still really young. There's a lot of things he can still do right. He showed a lot of flashes of greatness he could be. But QB in the NFL is the hardest job in sports. You have so much responsibilities on your plate, especially now during this COVID time. You got to be very careful who you're around, where you're at. And, obviously him going out to the club, whatever it was, and getting caught on video looks really bad on you, and especially as a face of a franchise player like they were hoping he could be. You can't do that. So, I'm just kind of hoping for him. Maybe he can take this time to really get his mind right, grow up, mature, and become just, a better quarterback and a better, like, professional man. And then, maybe get his confidence back because, I mean, he does have a lot of potential to be a good NFL quarterback. A lot of it was just his mentality. He went in there and he thought he could just make every single throw and try to force it in there. Caused a lot of picks, and he just didn't have any pocket presence. He got strip sacked a lot. So, and that's things I feel like, in my opinion, obviously, I've never played quarterback, but those are things that come with maturity and, understanding your role on the field and how to manage a game. So I think those are things maybe he could get better at and maybe get another shot at. But it's really hard in the NFL to get a second shot. But, I really hope this guy does because he does have so much talent. Okay, so let's move on to the next one here. Team with the most momentum going off into the playoffs, Dev. What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of teams that turned the corner at the right time, obviously hit that momentum shift and looking good going into the playoffs. But this has to be the hottest team in the NFL. This is the Buffalo Bills. Over the last 10 games, they're 9-1. In that span of their last 6 games, which they won, so they went 6-0 the last 6 games of the season. They outscored their opponents 229 points to 110. So obviously, over double the amount of points they scored versus what they allowed. They are, in my opinion, the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't think it's the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, obviously sitting at 14-2. They sat their starters obviously out the last week, but I think this was a team that got tested down the stretch a lot by Miami and Atlanta and other various teams that Buffalo showed, against Miami. Obviously, a huge win last week. I believe it was 56-26 or something like that over Miami. So this is the best team. I think Josh Allen should be in the MVP conversation. Stephon Diggs, obviously, being the number 1 receiver in the NFL for receiving yards, and I think he's right up there behind Devontae Adams with touchdowns. So both sides of the ball, they're lethal. Again, they're a team that they're young. They haven't really had a lot of playoff experience under Sean McDermott, but I think going into the playoffs, I have nothing but high hopes for this team.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I am 110% in on Bills Mafia right now. The thing I like the most is that they didn't take this last week in the NFL as that week off mentality because they knew the Steelers were probably going to rest a lot of their starters, and they probably had the second seed still locked down because Steelers most likely were going to lose without Big Ben and the rest of their starters. But they kept a lot of their starters out there, and they wanted to prove that this Dolphins defense was like top 5 defense in the NFL. They could still throttle, they could still get after them, they put up as many points on them as they did. And I like that too because that kind of keeps that continuity, that keeps that crispness. It's not that break because we've seen teams have trouble with like a bye week. Remember however many years ago it was, there was a lot of talk if teams coming out of the bye week have a harder time winning games than teams that are staying playing. And in my opinion, yeah, because it just makes sense to me. You take a week off, your body gets to rest a little bit. Excuse me, that muscle memory is kind of leaving a little bit. But teams that can keep continually just, laying the lead on folks like they did to the freaking Dolphins, they can get it done. So I'm 100% in. The other thing I like about the Bills, and it's where I think they can compete with the Chiefs, is that their pass rush is good. And we've seen how much a good pass rush, excuse me, the Saints had on the Chiefs. We can see how much that does to it, Patrick Mahomes. So I think with the Bills' pass rush, they can really make some noise on the Chiefs. The other thing I like is that they can keep up with them offensively. So I think, in my opinion, that'll probably be the AFC Championship game. That'll be a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah, this is a team that really turned the corner. Obviously, Josh Allen being the closest to us in Miles City, out of Laramie, Wyoming, University of Wyoming standout. I think, another thing about Josh Allen that people don't talk about is he has one of the strongest arms in the NFL. We have to talk about Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, obviously 2 of the strongest arms we see every week. But this is a guy who went into the offseason and did a lot of soul searching. Obviously heard the word bust around him quite a bit. Figured out some things, actually. I was watching some film on him, and he was talking about how his entire body was getting out in front of his hips. He wasn't using his hips enough, so this offseason he was timing up his lower body to his upper body, getting that connection. So obviously you can see this year he is gunslinging the ball. Stephon Diggs was a huge grab for them. And obviously they're just balanced on both sides. Like Brooks said, they have a good pass rush. They have good corners. They can cover you over the middle of the field. They can cover you deep. They can get to you either way. They have good run defense. They can run the ball. So, obviously when you look at the list of a great football team and balanced attacks. I mean, this is a team that checks off every box on that list. So the next one we're going to get into here, obviously we got to talk about MVP. It's going to be coming up here soon, right around the Pro Bowl is I think when they do the voting for that. So I'm going to kick it over to Brooks. Brooks, who's your updated MVP and why is that?
So, earlier in the podcast we made, I said Josh Allen, and there really is no irrefutable reason not to pick Josh Allen. But for me right now, it's 100% Aaron Rodgers. Just the season he's put together and everything he's been doing, I'm just super in on the Aaron Rodgers train. I think this is, he's one of the older quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Yeah, I really think the MVP is all his. He hasn't proved to me that it's not. But I really think Josh Allen should be a close number 2. Patrick Mahomes is great, don't get me wrong, and everything he's been doing. But, yeah, Josh Allen deserves to be there. And it's Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, 100%.
Yeah, I know as a Packers fan, Brooks is pretty much a Browns fan, obviously still has a little ties to his Denver Broncos. But this has to be Aaron Rodgers, obviously at 37 years old, coming into the season. And this just goes to show the Jordan Love pick worked. Whether or not he needed to play is out of the question, but I think it motivated Aaron. He's a lot more comfortable. You see him smiling. He's a leader. He finished the regular season at just shy of 71% completion percentage, just shy of 4,300 yards, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Packers finished obviously at 13-3 with the number 1 seed. 3 rushing touchdowns on top of that. A crazy stat on Aaron is he had a 121.5 passer rating. And now he has the top 2 single-season passer ratings ever in 2011 and obviously this year. He won MVP back in 2011, and then Peyton Manning, I believe it was back in 2006 with the Colts, or around that time, he had 121.4. So, and then he had an 84.4 QBR, first in the NFL. This is a guy that you take him away from the Packers right now, I do not see us winning more than 9 or 8 games. So, I just think his presence is felt from everybody. I think the defense in the last couple of weeks has picked up because of him, and that offense is obviously rolling. So if it goes to anyone but Aaron Rodgers, if it went to a Josh Allen, I'd 100% support that. I think he's deserving of that. When you break it down to most valuable player, this is a guy who I think he's changed the course of the NFL, and I think he's changed the course of Green Bay.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You said an 8 to 9 win team. I don't even think they win 5 games without Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. He's that big for him. So we'll jump on in here to our last NFL topic. So obviously playoffs coming up. We get to see teams that made it, teams that didn't make it, and teams that exceeded expectations and teams that disappointed this season. So I'll hand it off to you here, Deb. Take it over again.
This is tough. I think this was a great year in the NFL. I think this was a year a lot of teams kind of surprised us. A lot of teams kind of let us down. So I picked 5 teams for each. I'm not really going to break it down into why for a ton of them, but teams that disappointed me, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons, number 1. Obviously, they lost a lot of close games. Should have beat the Chiefs. They should have beat the Patriots. They should have beat the Bears. Should have beat the Cowboys. The list goes on and on. I think there's about 6 or 7 teams that they blew leads to. So another team that I think, coming into the season, I thought they had the roster to really challenge down in the NFC South with Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Carolina, but kind of a letdown there. Obviously made a head coaching change. I think that's really helped them out. We don't know what Matt Ryan's future is with them. So they're my number 1. Number 2 is the Las Vegas Raiders. I know Brooks and I were both very high on that team with John Gruden and Derek Carr. I know they had a couple injuries that kind of shook things up, but overall very disappointing the way they played coming down the stretch. I really think that this is a team that has a good direction with John Gruden. I think they have a good season coming up. I think they can definitely contend with the Chiefs for that division title, but they just let me down there. Third one was definitely the Patriots. I know this was a change, but if y'all think that Belichick was the reason they won Super Bowls, look again. I think Belichick's an all-time coach, but Tom Brady was more important to that franchise than I think Bill Belichick is. I think it starts with Robert Kraft. I think he's done a phenomenal job with the culture there. So, obviously, a really disappointing season there for them. The fourth is the Chargers, and I know we can obviously speculate as to, they had the quarterback change. Well, if you ask me, Justin Herbert, Rookie of the Year candidate behind Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, but Anthony Lynn, I love the guy. I think he was a great coach. Obviously, this is a business, and that's what's tough is you fall in love with the person, but you have to fall in love with what they do and their output. So, a lot of talent. Obviously, losing Derwin James earlier in the year, even before the season started. So, but this is a team that'll rebound. They have the roster. They have the young talent. And the final team for disappointing was the Cardinals. I think, obviously a little bit of change with DeAndre Hopkins in that system. I think Larry Fitzgerald's going to be out or maybe one more year. So, I think they disappointed this season, but I think there's pretty much every one of these teams on this list, besides maybe one, can rebound from that. And then for the teams that exceeded my expectations, number one is the Browns. New head coach, 10-6, make a wild card, contend in your division. Baker Mayfield proved he was worthy of a number one pick. The Dolphins making a culture change with Brian Flores. Obviously, I think they got a lot to look forward to. Everyone that is on Tua with the hot seat, I think you need to lay off him a little bit. He's still learning, still trying to get a hold of things, but obviously he has a bright future with them. The Packers, just because after the draft, they were projected a 6-win team. Getting the number one seed with 13 wins, that was a big deal for us. Buffalo, I knew they were going to be good with Stephon Diggs, but I didn't know they were going to be this good, this prolific. And the final one, I mean, you can say they were in a weak division, but I think Washington really opened my eyes. I think Ron Rivera going through his cancer, Alex Smith coming back after 17 surgeries, almost dying, losing his leg, losing his career all in general, and then Chase Young and Terry McLaurin and Gibson, the running back. I don't know what the first name is for him. Antonio Gibson, thank you. This is a team that I think they have a really good direction. Obviously, I hate Dan Snyder. I hate their owner. But Washington has a bright future. I think they have a really good chance at this first matchup against the Buccaneers at home. So those are my 10 teams. I didn't want to spiel on too long, get it over to Brooks here. But, no, it was a great season in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That was great. I really won't elaborate into too much of mine because I think you hit pretty much every nail on the head that you could. Those are great analysis. But obviously, like we look at teams that exceeded, we look at the Browns. Those are kind of the one that pops to the front of everyone's brain just because, 18 years since they made the playoffs, something crazy like that. Baker Mayfield did show he deserved to be there long term until foreseeable future. But to me, that team had such talent on their team offensively that people take away the pass and everything. If we look at them on paper compared to the other teams, they deserve to be there. So in my opinion, as a fan, obviously I kind of expected them to be there. And I'm glad they made it because that would have been bad if they didn't. But I think a team that we're not really talking about, and especially during this COVID era, is the Ravens. The Ravens got hit with COVID in the middle of the season. They lost a stretch of like 4 games. Everyone thought that totally just threw them out of the playoff contention. But here they are. After that, Monday night thriller victory over the Browns, they were able to put a stretch together of games, and they look really good right now. Heading into the playoffs as they grab that 5th seed. To me, that was really impressive how they were able to bounce back, put their pieces back together, after they all fell apart, and then just, boom, hit the ground running and make the playoffs and be a team that, is honestly could be a dark horse. No one's really thinking about right now sitting at the 5th seed. But the Ravens definitely could make some noise. And then disappointment. I got to go with the Houston Texans. Everyone talks about having a franchise quarterback, this and that. Well, they got one. Deshaun Watson's, you couldn't ask for more out of Deshaun Watson. Somebody called him the Michael Jordan of football, and he really is with how athletic that guy is. He can make every throw in the book. He can scramble. He doesn't get sacked. So I think, you've got that guy. And then obviously you had the, what was their head coach name again? I spaced it. Whatever it was, the coach that they fired earlier in the year. Bill O'Brien. Thank you, Dev. Yeah, when they fired Bill O'Brien earlier in the year, that kind of signaled to them, this might be a down year. And that's why I didn't like. The players just had such a negative mentality after that happened. I don't know what happened in the locker room or anything like that. But, I would have liked Deshaun Watson to kind of rally his guys a little bit more. And then obviously the Hopkins trade kind of was another thing that kind of signaled, we're going to take a year off. But the thing that didn't make sense to me is if you're going to do that, you better have a high pick secured. But they traded for Laramie Tunsil. And with that, there was that protected top 5 pick. So if they got within the top 5, the Dolphins get that pick. And they did. And so they don't even have a first-round draft pick this year. Their pick was supposed to be number 3 overall, but instead the Dolphins got it now. So to me, that was a disappointment because I don't understand, if your mentality was to tank, then this was not the year to do it just because you don't have a draft pick. But, there's much smarter guys than me running that franchise, so who knows, I guess. Okay, so we'll move on in here to NCAA football. Obviously, fun week with the New Year's Six Bowl and the college football playoffs. So we'll jump right in here, Dev. Ohio State, they looked really good against Clemson, but do you think they have a realistic chance against that firepower that is Alabama?
First of all, I just want to say to all Ohio State fans out there, they proved me wrong. I was a hater. Justin Fields is tough as nails. I think obviously James Skolinski is a dirty player for Clemson, obviously with that hit. But, they do have a chance. I think actually of any team now, I think they have the best chance against Alabama. From what they did to Clemson, if I'm Nick Saban, I better be putting all my marbles in on how I can stop Justin Fields on offense, because they put on a clinic on how to score the football and score it fast and efficient. Ryan Day has done a phenomenal job, obviously filling in Urban Meyer's shoes and footsteps. Those are big ones to fill, and he's done nothing but good things there. They have a good offense. Obviously, we've seen explosive, but they also have a great defense. They contain Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Yeah, Etienne. Sorry, I butchered his name. But that's a really good offense that has proved that they're going to put up 40-plus points on you pretty much every single time. And, they came out with a couple quick scores and then got shut down for 7 points over 3 quarters. So that's a huge testament to their adjustments. I think that's what you need against Alabama, is they're going to throw a lot of different looks and schemes at you, and you need to be able to adjust on the fly. And, I think Justin Fields proved his stock in the draft. And I don't know his first name, but that running back Sermon is really, really good. And this is a team that's going into a team like Alabama. It seems like every year they're, again, they have one of the top recruiting classes in the nation. But shout out to Devontae Smith for breaking the wide receiver drought in the Heisman, first since Desmond Howard back in '92. So this is going to be a great matchup. I think, even as Brooks and I, as Irish fans, this is the matchup you want to see in the national championship. The two best teams, even though, Ohio State's only played 7 games, I now look at it and think if they would have had a full season, they'd probably be undefeated right now. So, really looking forward to it, and I think they have a great shot.
Yeah, I agree 100%. With Dabo saying that they're the 11th best team in the country, that's the definition of, what do they call it, like blackboard material. You put that up on the whiteboard in the locker room and you let people look at it. You let them know that the coach of the other team, he absolutely thinks you are undeserving of being here. And, I think, in all credit due to Dabo, we all kind of thought the same thing. Like, that's kind of what the consensus thought around the nation was. But obviously, they came out and they showed they could do it. With COVID, obviously it made it more difficult. Excuse me. Only play like 6 games in a year. That's not a lot of time to kind of get your chemistry flowing, your run game mixed with the pass game, players kind of getting all their calls and audibles down and everything. So, I'm kind of, chalking it up to, just not having a lot of time to get all the juices flowing together as a team. So to me, I think Ohio State's definitely worthy, and I think Ohio State can definitely shut down Alabama, because, Alabama's run game with Najee Harris is insane. Nobody ever really talks about how insane Najee Harris is as an athlete and as a running back. He's just as good as Etienne, in my opinion, and Etienne's great. So Ohio State's definitely going to have their hands full, but I like that, Ohio State is cornerback university. They've got guys that they can put on Devontae Smith, maybe slow him down a little bit. So I really like that aspect of it. I think it'll be a heck of a game. And definitely, Justin Fields solidified that he is, it's 1A and 1B with him and Trevor Lawrence. I really don't think we can disrespect him to say, he's the second best. But, Trevor Lawrence deserves his respect too. But with that performance, Justin Fields just showed that he deserves to be there. He deserves to be in that conversation. And he is one of the best players in college football, period.
Yeah, those are great points right there. I think, like Brooks said, if you guys didn't watch the Sugar Bowl, I think they did a really good job in their hype video before. Obviously, as we all know, that call an incomplete pass that went in favor of Clemson the year before in the semifinals. So just showing the hunger that Ohio State had. They wanted this matchup. I think it drove them even more. They had that week or two off break before the bowl game, and I think Ryan Day came back from COVID and got his team ready in a better manner than Dabo Swinney was prepared for them to be. So that showed the guts of that team. That showed what their ability is to rise above adversity. Prove the haters wrong, shut them up. They shut me up for sure. But the next topic we're going to go into, obviously this is a sore subject for Brooks and I as Notre Dame fans. It has been nothing but an absolute shit show, to put it as plain and simple as I can. Look, Brian Kelly, no disrespect to the guy. I think he has done some amazing things at Notre Dame. I think he's one of the best coaches besides Lou Holtz that we've ever had. But the question I'm going to raise right now, and I want Brooks to kind of get into it because he's obviously been a fan a little longer than I have. But look, is it time for Brian Kelly to go? Because I think this is one of the situations where you sit down and you look at the table and you say, okay, is this time for a change? Do we need something different, something fresh, something new? And I just want to really look forward to hearing Brooks' analysis on this.
Yeah, so as a Notre Dame fan, you get all excited, you get all pumped up, and you have a bunch of friends over, and you get really excited to watch Notre Dame's primetime game. It never fails. They just get absolutely shit on. And the thing that I hate the most about it is that as soon as you sit down and turn on the TV, Notre Dame comes out with a defeated mentality. They play like they're already defeated, like they play like they're already behind. They don't have the sense of urgency. They don't have the sense of excitement. And to me, that falls directly on Brian Kelly. Like, every single game I've watched of his prime time, he has been outcoached by far. I don't care if he doesn't make the play calls. It's your job to get things straightened out, get things going in the right direction, and he hasn't. He is totally content with his team coming out playing super conservative and not, trying to make outrageous plays. He doesn't take chances, and Notre Dame has to take chances. The conversation's never been, Notre Dame doesn't have enough talent. It's no, Notre Dame doesn't show up in the big games. It's definitely not because of talent. It's because of coaching. It's because of play calling, and it's because of the team mentality he puts in every week. It's so much about, what, we're here. If you guys want to win, you can. He doesn't get them fired up. He doesn't put a fire in their belly. I think he's a great recruiter. I mean, guys like Owusu was a 5-star linebacker. We should have never got that guy. He should have been an Alabama guy, but we do have Owusu. So I think that goes to show Brian Kelly's a great recruiter. But it's just super frustrating to me that we just keep, having this mentality of we're okay to be here. We're just happy to be here. We're just happy to be here every year. When in reality, we really do have talent that can compete with the likes of Clemson and Alabama and make it more of a game than a blowout of 40 points, which it feels like happens every year. So as a Notre Dame fan, and I feel like I've been preaching this for years, I would love to see Brian Kelly move on. He's been great, like Dev said, he is up there with the Lou Holtz number-wise with wins and bowl games and everything like that. But we don't have, the right to just be sitting here we're okay with being mediocre. We have such great talent, offensively, defensively. Like Notre Dame's offensive lineman, you can think of Ronnie Stanley, Mike McGlinchey, Quentin Nelson. There's a handful of professional linemen that are from Notre Dame, and our run game's always just so-so every year, and we always have a pretty good running back like this year with Kyron Williams. It just is so frustrating to me that he's just so content with being okay, because I think that's just what gets him by. I'm assuming, I don't know, it's totally just a wild guess, that he's got some contract clause in his thing that said, if you make the college football playoffs, you get an extra bonus, because it just seems like we put all of our effort in the regular season, and then all of a sudden just we shit the bed. It's like, we got here. I don't care anymore. So to me, it's super frustrating. I just, it would mean a lot to me if we can move on from Brian Kelly and just kind of just get a new mentality in that locker room, I guess. Because you can just see on the players' minds, it's so much of a we've already lost mentality when we're playing these big schools.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Notre Dame Irish connoisseur, Mr. Brooks Talley. No, he made some amazing points there. I compare the situation, obviously, to something that I've gone through as a Green Bay Packers fan. This is a lot like Mike McCarthy. Look, you have success kind of early on in the good years, and you get to the playoffs and you get into these big games, but you just cannot punch your ticket, and you can't get a big win. I don't care if we beat Alabama and go into the national championship and absolutely get destroyed. Just the fact that we can knock off the biggest powerhouse in college football, especially this year, that would be a huge plus. That'd be a huge gain for the players, and you never know what could happen. And, it's a football game, and that's why football is so amazing and so tough at the same time. But this is the new identity. This is, again, I don't know if Brian Kelly is preaching to his guys, look, if we're going to lose, we're going to lose with respect. No, you got to play to win. When against big guys like this, you've got to fluster them. You got to throw them things that you would never see, trick plays, different looks. You got to make them adjust. You want to see them flustered over there. You want to see Saban going to Steve Sarkisian and his defensive coordinator and obviously trying to figure out what to do. You want to see the halftime, interview with Nick Saban be like, yeah, they're throwing us some different looks and we need to adjust faster. They're going to start to get away with this game, or, we can't figure this thing out and this is getting out of hand pretty quick. instead of, oh yeah, we feel good, we didn't really feel like we had to use Devontae Smith. Like, that's bad. That's bad news right there. We just need something new. We need something fresh. It's time to move on. Like I said, I have mad respect for Brian Kelly for what he's been able to do. I think he did a different identity with himself, but I think it's just time where, you gave it everything you had, and you just have to step away while you have all the glory still in your favor. And I think if you love the game of football for what it truly means, you know that the School of Notre Dame, with the culture and the history behind it, deserves a little bit better than this. So the next one I'm going to go into, the last one here for college football. Obviously, we'll keep it pretty brief, but obviously we all know it's a 4-team playoff, and the big question's always been raised: should it be 4-team, 8-team, 12, 16? Raising that field and expanding it. Brooks, do you think it should stay as 4, or it should get expanded to 8, and why is that?
I honestly think it should be 6-team playoff, just because we always have the 1 and 2 team. You know who they are, and they're usually always in it. It seems like. But when we get to those last 2 teams out, those are always the teams like, oh man, they could have made some noise, like Texas A&M this year, or Florida, or Cincinnati. Teams like that could have made a lot of noise, people say. Well, I think we should give them an opportunity, because I think once we get below 6, it's kind of that imaginary line, I guess you could say, where teams like, okay, you know what, these are kind of the big dogs up here, and these are kind of the guys down here that, they had a great season, but they deserve to be in a bowl game or something like that. So, I think 6-team playoff just makes it a nice foundation point. And then, obviously if we keep feeling like there's other teams we need to add in, then you can keep going. But I think if we move it down to 6-team, it's not overextending ourselves too much. If we move to 18, then, it might be a little too much. We might have to end the college football regular season a little too early. I think 6-team might be just enough, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's really hard to expand it to 8 because, look, regardless of if it was 16, 12, 10, 6, 8, 4, you're going to have teams pissed off and disappointed. I mean, you're always going to be the guy, that's coaching, Jimbo Fisher. You're going to be coaching the number 5 Aggies, and you're just in a bowl game. Or you're going to be, if it's 6 teams, you're going to be the guy at number 7, So it's never going to be perfect. I think the format now is great. I think it does stir up some competitiveness among the nation. I think you see a lot of teams hungry. They want to get that spot. I think moving to like a 6 or 8 team, like Brooks said, 6, I think it'd be a great idea. I think it's time to maybe open up the books and try it for a year. If 6 or 8 doesn't work, then hey, we've got the format already down for 4. We know how to get back to that. So just try something different, try something new. It's again, I think we all get wrapped up into the times of just, oh, well, it's good enough. Let's just, this format's good enough. Let's just keep it as what it is. Well, you're starting to see a lot of players, a lot of coaches pissed off, and I think it's time we need to kind of turn the book on that page and move into something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just one of those things that you got to just keep looking to improve. Like the old bowl game system, like it just got old and it got kind of out of date and people were tired of it, so they moved on to the college football playoffs. That's been fantastic. Some of the best college football we've ever seen has been in the college football playoffs. And, it just gives teams, in theory, it gives teams that we never thought would have a chance against the big dogs a chance. So, and then if we move it to 6, then we give more of those little guys a chance. So that's all people want. Everyone loves an underdog. So I definitely think it needs to be expanded. All right, so we'll change sports here completely, and we'll move on into the NBA. NBA season's just getting started. We're getting great start off points, everything. We're doing good with COVID, so it's just nice to see a NBA season just keep going, So we'll jump on in here to the first topic. Teams that have been surprisingly good in the first 2 weeks. Dev, who do you got?
Yeah, we'll keep this pretty brief for the NBA, obviously, because we haven't seen too much out of it. So, and I want to get to this last topic for NBA. But 2 teams I like right now are the 76ers at 6-1 and the Suns at 5-2. They made some off-season moves. Obviously, the 76ers getting Doc Rivers, the Suns getting Chris Paul. This has worked for both teams in their favor, obviously at the top of their conferences respectively. I think these are teams you need to watch out for as the season goes on. Obviously, I think the Suns, more so than the 76ers, have a little more to prove to me. But no, I think the 76ers have proved their spot as one of the top dogs in the East. And yeah, these are 2 teams that I'm really excited to watch going forward.
Yeah, definitely the Suns. The Suns have kind of just been one of those laughingstock teams, in the NBA. It feels like for a long time, after the Nash era. But once they drafted Devin Booker, everyone could kind of see there was potential for them to turn things around. And then obviously, as Chris Paul's proved in OKC, he can kind of get these young guys going. He can kind of show these young guys how to compete, how to play in these big games. So that's great for Phoenix. I think they've got a lot of potential. The other team I want to talk about is Sacramento Kings. I really like the core of guys that Sacramento's building. Obviously, we got De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and now we got Tyrese Halliburton, who is a huge fan coming out of Iowa State. Then I see Halliburton just last night, and he hit a game-winning shot over the Chicago Bulls, excuse me. And so that moves them to 4-4. And I just like those teams that kind of stay at that 500 level, because those are teams that I feel like just can compete constantly. Like they learn from their losses and then they win. So I think the Kings, especially with their core, they can make a lot of noise. I really think but it definitely hurts with the drama they got going on right now with De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley's fathers. Marvin Bagley's dad commented on some Sacramento Kings fans' tweets saying trade my son, and then De'Aaron Fox's dad liked it or something like that and said we don't need him or something like that, and then De'Aaron Fox just tweeted just the word Jesus Christ, just super frustrated with these over supportive dads, I guess. So if they move Marvin Bagley, he's got a lot of room for upside. They could get good players in return, and maybe get rid of a little bit of that drama. But I really think the Kings, it's like the Suns, we keep seeing that ceiling for them get a little bit higher. So yeah, I'm really excited about the Kings' future, I guess.
Yeah, so that's some really good points there. So I'm going to kick it off with the second one, which is some underdogs to watch out for. Two teams that I think, aren't really getting talked about a whole lot right now are the Magic and the Warriors. I think the Magic getting Cole Anthony in the draft was a huge pick. They got a lot of good guards. They got a big man. And I think this is a team that they're kind of starting to turn the page in the book for them down in Orlando. And obviously the Warriors losing Klay Thompson before the season started was a huge blow, but Steph Curry has filled that spot up great. Obviously putting up a career high 62 just about a week ago. So these are two teams that I think are starting to turn the book. I think the Warriors are getting a little more comfortable with Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. They're all getting some good reps. Kelly Oubre is starting to kind of hit his shots a little bit more. So I think this is a team that they have a really good upside. The Western Conference is obviously a bloodbath, and the East is starting to turn to that with 5 or 6 good teams. So overall, I think these are two teams to watch out for. They may not make a big playoff run, but they're going to definitely be there. And I think once they get a little taste of that, they're going to have a lot of upside in the future years. And I think they're just doing a great job there.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another underdog that I really don't think is getting a lot of love lately, because again, it is early in the season, so it's fair. But the New York freaking Knicks, the team that we have shit on for so much in just sports history, the movie Soul even made fun of them, a Disney Pixar movie. But right now they are 5-3, I believe. Yeah, 5-3. And they're getting great protection out of guys like Austin Rivers, who people kind of wrote off as his career being done. And then Julius Randle. Julius Randle is looking like a stud out there. He's looking, as of right now, like a all-star. And then you got guys like Elfrid Payton. Elfrid Payton is playing great at the guard position for him. So the New York Knicks, they're playing good right now. God forbid it keeps happening, but God, wouldn't it be nice to just see the New York Knicks not be the worst team for once? That's just like the Patriots always being the best team. The New York Knicks have always been the worst team. So maybe it'd be nice to see them be good for once. All right, so let's move on in here to our last NBA topic. If you had to pick one player in their prime to start a franchise around, excluding Kobe, LeBron, and MJ, who would that be? So I'll hand it off here to Dev. I know he's got someone good.
Yeah, I tried to keep this pretty brief and pretty open, but this is such a hard topic. We've obviously had so many legends in the game of basketball, and I like where Brooks and I are going to be at for our points today, because he's going to pick kind of a current player that I think is definitely in the all-time discussions already, and you can argue with us on that, but we have the facts for it. I'm going to pick a little bit of an older guy. I want a big man, and I'm going to go with the Dream, Hakeem Olajuwon. When you look at the greatest centers of all time, obviously Shaq's can be up there, but in his career, which was a little over 1,238 career games, Hakeem put up numbers of 21.8 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 3.1 blocks per game, shooting a little over 51%. He was probably, in my eyes, the most complete center of all time. Legends sought and wanted advice from him. Kobe and LeBron are two of his not products, but he helped them a lot in their off seasons. Even during the season, they would contact him, and still to this day, obviously, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. But this is a guy who, down in the Rockets, Shaq talks about it all the time. Great trash talker, played great defense, could score the ball at will against anybody. Obviously had his great fadeaway, could score on the inside. And obviously I think that's what we miss from today's basketball is the big man down in the below post doing work. And this was the guy who I think paved the path for guys like, David Robinson and Tim Duncan and other great centers after him. So I got to stick with the dream, Hakeem, but Brooks has got definitely a good player for you guys to watch out for.
Yeah, so I kind of thought I'd throw in a little wild one here. I'm gonna go with Luka Doncic. I really, and I know the Mavericks are not playing great right now. It is early, but I love the way Luka plays basketball. I mean, he passes the eye test for me and guys I would want to build a team around. He's a pass first forward, which we don't see very often. He's got great just court awareness and knowledge, and obviously he's a knockdown 3-point shooter. He's a great slasher and scorer. The defense needs to get better, but it seems like with every guy that's been so great offensively and everything like that, their defense needs to be picked up. But the nice part about that, the dude's only 21. He's got so much upside, and that's the biggest reason why I picked him, because he's only 21 and he's already shown so much potential. So that's, to me, is the guy right now that'd be a fun guy to build a team around.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one, we're going to get into some NCAA basketball. Keep it kind of brief. I don't obviously want to drag out this podcast too long for you guys, but we appreciate you listening and keeping in touch with us. So the first one is Kentucky. Obviously, a lot of struggles there this year. John Calipari has, I think, kind of struggled these last 3-4 years to kind of put together a championship caliber team, make some runs. So I'm going to hand it off to Brooks here. What's going on with Kentucky? What's going on?
Yeah, so Kentucky's kind of in a weird situation. We're not used to seeing them be this bad this early. And, obviously there's that viral video going around of that player on the bench. Can't remember his name. Obviously some freshman, because that's usually all Kentucky has for basketball players. But, he was obviously very emotionally distraught, and Coach Calipari kind of set him off, told him, take a week away from the team, do what you need to do. I just feel like, maybe it's hard to say because we usually never see Kentucky like this. Their talent's not really there. Maybe it was just a bad recruiting class for Calipari. But, I'm just going to say COVID, the whole COVID thing makes it super difficult for guys to get in the gym, especially freshmen, new to campus, all those things. I just really think that's got to be what's going on with Kentucky. But other than that, nothing really else I can figure out, because I'm just so not used to seeing Calipari having such a terrible team, honestly.
Yeah, some good points there. The player Brooks is referring to is Cameron Fletcher. Like Brooks said, though, he usually has a starting five of true freshmen just coming out of high school. And I think for a lot of people, I don't speak from experience on college basketball. I can tell you, being exposed to the college golf scene a little bit, not in tournaments and stuff like that, but, college is such a big step up from high school. And no matter where these kids come from, 5-star, recruits or not, this is a different time. This is a different place. You're on scholarship, and there's a lot riding and a lot of pressure. And I think for Calipari, I think some of it falls on him, but I also watched the games. I mean, his players are not executing whatsoever. And I think for me, Calipari has always had such a strong culture at Kentucky. I think it's just really pushed a lot of kids to a breaking point, and I think they just haven't rose to the challenge. They haven't risen to the occasion. So this is, again, I don't think it's a knock on Calipari. I think it's just he needs to find the recruits that are ready to step into a role, to take over, to be a star. And obviously, guys like John Wall and J.J. Redick. No, J.J. Redick was a Duke guy. Anthony Davis, Karl-Anthony Towns, guys like that. So, he just needs to, I think, instead of just recruiting 5-star talents, I think he needs to recruit the guys that are going to get in there, put in the work, and do what he wants them to do, and because he's always been a good guy that can produce NBA talent. So, again, a lot of love for John Calipari and what he does at Kentucky. He's definitely changed the course of that program over the years. So that'll be kind of our lone topic for the NCAA basketball. Obviously, we've spoken on, Gonzaga men's before and the Stanford women. So, we'll keep that pretty brief, pretty short. The next one I'm going to go into is golf. We got the Masters coming up here in April. So I'm going to hand it over to Brooks and his 2021 Masters winner pick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we always talk about this. I don't have the golf knowledge Devin does. But for me, the eye test, I got to go with Matthew Wolff. The guy's got a super unorthodox swing and everything he does. But, he's been playing great. And, I love watching the guy play. I love his personality. So, he's just one of those guys I kind of feel like is ready to take that step up. And it always seems like when we see guys take that step up to, that to be a perennial force in majors in golf, it always happens at the Masters. So for me, Matthew Wolff.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Obviously, we just saw Dustin Johnson have a phenomenal win in November. All the congratulations and kudos to him for what he was able to perform and put on a show there at Augusta. But my 2021 pick is Jon Rahm, the Spaniard, obviously regarded as one of the best to come out of Spain in a while, obviously since Seve Ballesteros and Sergio Garcia. So he's ready for a major win. If you guys didn't catch it, he actually just switched from TaylorMade to Callaway, and his first round he shot 59 at his home course at the course record in Arizona. So this is a guy who's ready to break through onto that major stage. He's obviously won some very prolific tournaments, but yeah, he's definitely got to be my pick for the Masters in April. And then we're going to actually roll over the next topic. As we all know, we have 4 majors in the golf every year. We have the Masters, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and then the Open or the British Open. And if you get offended by the British Open, you can go home. But I'm going to hand it over to Brooks. He's going to let you know who he's picking for those winners, and we'll dive into that.
All right, so for these guys I picked, to me, it really was who I felt like was due, who I felt like, we haven't seen them hold up a trophy in a while. Starting off with the PGA, I got to go with Rory McIlroy. In the Masters, he early on kind of fell apart, but he started to pick it back up. So I really think Rory is due again. I definitely could see him winning a major here soon. U.S. Open, Justin Thomas. It doesn't feel right without Justin Thomas winning at least one major championship during the championship circuit. So I definitely see Justin Thomas winning that one. And then the Open, I got to go with Dev's guy, Viktor Hovland. He's a European guy. It's plays to his suits. So I got to ride Dev's way with Viktor Hovland.
That's my brother boy right there, picking Viktor Hovland. Much love to that guy. He just actually won the last tournament of the 2020 season down in Mexico. Great player, obviously a little bit of an unorthodox move, sorry. He played with Matthew Wolff in college, so kudos to both of them for, staying confident in themselves. But obviously I already said my Masters winner. The PGA Championship's at the Ocean Course at Kiowa Island this year, and that's going to be Justin Thomas for me. Justin Thomas plays really good on those tropical courses, especially Bermuda grass. He's a really good putter, really good wedge player, and obviously for those of you who haven't played on Bermuda grass, it's tough, it's sticky, it's different, a lot of grain to it, and he's a player that's always proven that he's really good. Obviously, today marks the start of the Century Tournament of Champions down in Hawaii at Kapalua. So look for him. He's the reigning champion down there. Does well at those types of courses. The U.S. Open is at Torrey Pines. Big Tiger, baby. Tiger Woods will be the winner there this year. I think, he's won there 8 times in his career. Won the U.S. Open back in 2008 on a broken leg. Obviously in a playoff against Rocco Media, one of the most classic memories we can recollect in the golf history. And then the Open is at Royal St. George's. That's going to be Rory McIlroy for me. Obviously, a Northern Ireland guy. Those conditions are so tough. If you guys haven't watched Links Golf, it's windy, it can be rainy, it can be sunny, and that can all be in one round of golf. So those are my 4 major championship winners. I think it's going to be a star-studded year for the winners. I don't think we're going to have a lot of no-namers this year. But obviously those are always cool stories to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll kind of round off our podcast here because we always love talking about golf at the end. But Dev made this point up, and I think it's a really cool one. Why is golf so important to you? I'll kind of start it off here. Golf means a lot to me because it's just family. Family to me is golf because it's something everybody can do. No matter you're good or bad at it, you can hop out on a cart, grab a couple of drinks, listen to music, and drive around and be out with your family. Have fun. Especially like a family like mine that loves sports, loves being active, things like that. That is awesome, and that's why I love golf so much, because it's a game you can continue to play as the older you get. You can grow, you can get better, and especially since Tiger Woods, it's one of those games that everybody can play. It's not so much of the country club atmosphere anymore. You can find a course out in the middle of a farm, basically. It seems like these days. So that's why I really love golf. And I'm sure Dev's reason is just as fantastic.
No, and that's the beauty of golf right there. I'm really glad that, this last year Brooks and I were able to connect through golf quite a bit more. Obviously, I was able to help him out with his game and see him grow, and that's obviously something that means a lot to me, whether it's Brooks or whether it's a complete random stranger I meet on the golf course. But, it teaches you life lessons. It's taught, I've been playing since I was 18 months old. It has been my life. It is my love. my passion. It's been something that I've dreamed about, being on the PGA Tour for a long time, and obviously as I get older, it starts to become more of a reality. It's still a grind, but this is a game that the great stories never end in golf, and I think that's why I love it. It's humbling. Like Brooks can obviously attest to this. You can go from a birdie to a triple bogey in the span of 10 minutes, and that's why it's so beautiful. Is it teaches you how to ride the roller coaster of life. Take the highs when you get them, take the lows, and deal with them like a man, and just keep your head up, charge forward. I'm so blessed that I was able to find this game at a young age and expose it to other people, especially our family and friends. So, in my opinion, golf is the greatest sport to ever live and to ever be played. It's just brought a lot of great figures forward in this world, and I think there's just nothing but good people involved with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. All right, so we'll round off our show today. We'll dive on in here to our segments we like to do: Brooks' Best Bets, Devin's Dogs. So I'll hop right into mine. Mine, too, are football related. I think the Bills at the spread of 6.5 are pretty much a lock, and then the Ravens playing the Titans at a 3.5 point spread in their favor, I think is also a lock. I really like both those two teams. I think they're probably the two hottest teams right now in the AFC going in the playoffs. So those are my two picks.
Yeah, those are good picks right there. Obviously, Super Wildcard Weekend, I'll be glued to the TV most of the time. But for my dogs, this is just really tough, but we're going to see who comes out, whether it's Brooks or I, but I'm going Tennessee plus 165 money line at home. Obviously, a playoff matchup from last year. I think the King reigns, though. I think King Henry takes them home to a win. The second one is Cleveland plus 155 money line at Pittsburgh. Let's ride that dog pound all the way until it dies out. I think, they built some confidence. Obviously, didn't play the starters, but Pittsburgh kind of sputtered out at the end of the season. They didn't really do much. Obviously, the Bengals proved they can beat them. So I think, Baker Mayfield's going to have healthy guys back. I think they're going to go in there and surprise a lot of people, potentially, even if they don't win. I think it's going to be a close game. And then I got the LA Rams plus 170 money line. They just went and got beat by Seattle on the road a couple weeks ago, and I think they're going to go back with the new fresh mentality. I think Sean McVay's ready to take Pete Carroll down. Again, I think this is just a really, really good team that has a lot to prove, especially with Cam Akers in the backfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Great picks. The Browns, I think they're ready to kind of get away from that little brother stigma that's been around them, I guess. So anyways, that does it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. We appreciate everyone and everything they've ever done for us in this show and continuing to support it. We, again, bless you and hope you have a great 2021, and we look forward to seeing what the year brings. Thank you, everyone.